So I know you're standing, on your way to the lunch, but so I'll keep it short and snappy. And first of all, I'd like to thank both Maulik and Kathir for their time today. I think between the two of them, I think we have over 60 years of experience in financial markets and technology. 30 years with Maulik, 30 years with Kathir. well, yeah, we can play around with the numbers a bit. There's a little bit of spread in the market. We can play around with that. So first of all, I think I'll go straight dive into the topic, which is our theme, how technology revolution is reshaping treasury. But before I go into that, I wanted to kind of lean on your experience and understand and just give a little bit of context. Let's say over the last 5 years, Maulik, starting with you, what have you seen in the industry, especially around corporate treasury risk management? How we've evolved, let's say, over the last 5 years. So
thanks, Arun. Pleasure connecting all of you with all of you again. Over last 7 years of my consulting experience, and prior to that as one of the market participants in the FX, the experience is that there are broadly 3 categories of market participants, and especially I'm talking about the corporate side. There are one set of corporates that I've seen who never ever go in the market for any hedging product at all. Now, they have forex exposure, but they normally do not hedge at all. And the reason of that could be maybe their own business has very high margin. So they don't really care about 4-5% dollar movement in 6 months, 3 months, whatever. Or alternatively, their FX volume is much insignificant to the overall volume. So I may be having 100 crore, 1000 crores, but my FX transactions are not even more than 1 or 2 crores. So then I would ignore it. Or the third, which is the most critical category, is that they are really scared. And those scares or those fear comes in from the past experiences of, we have seen 2013 volatility, 2018 volatility. If I am hedged, the M2M on hedges is what actually impacts. And the best thing is to convert all the transactions at a cash rate and not to even get into the FX world at all. The second set of participants that I observe is those who have been doing a hedge operation but based on the past performance. So they know that in the past they have done say $100 million, I would spread my hedges accordingly. And that's a kind of steady state, consistent approach which they have been doing it over last many years. But I think the most evolved and the third category that I'm referring, and that is what has actually started emerging of late, is the set of corporates who have started integrating their business operations with the FX. They start looking at FX as one of the function within the overall business which also requires an efficiency improvement. They started looking at a micro level, at a transaction level, where my exposures are getting triggered. Capturing the exposures at that stage and managing exposures from that day onwards. So it's really like integrating, seeing the impact of how the hedging operations operate on their EBITDA, on their overall business operations. It's really an integrated operation, and that's what the evolution I've seen of late. I mean, that's so far my experience is, and more shift from A to 3 is what is in the process. That's my experience.
Thank you, Maulik. Kathir, your views on what you've seen?
The corporate treasuries that we see these days, currently in India at least, a lot of them are really operations focused. They spend a lot of time working with banks, either finding out the cash positions on the cash management side, or doing deals on FX, or negotiating rates with the banks and so on. I think the world over, corporate treasuries have moved to a more central role in organizations. The way I see it probably panning out in India as we go, is that I think corporate treasuries have a significant role to play in improving the competitiveness of the firm and in stakeholder communication. So increasing the competitiveness of the firm in terms of getting the firm a good hedge rate, for instance in the case of FX. Let's say a bid is being made, and the bid will give you a margin of 20% if you are able to make 73 rupees to $1. And the current price, let's say current forward price with same tenor, let's say 72. Can the treasury commit that they will be able to get that 73, which is above the current forward rate, which is what all treasuries anyway end up doing, not done very scientifically. But treasurers becoming part of the conversation in every deal, I think will slowly happen over a period of time, and the way the products are priced and the way the negotiations are done with suppliers, I think will involve treasurers as they go. Because that affects rates. If your input is 1%, 2%, they spend a lot of time getting a 1% discount from supplier. But the treasury can give you the same. It can give you the same kind of excess cash flow. So the treasurers are likely to play a more important role in improving competitiveness. So when two people bid, and one company is more confident that they can get a better rate, then they can bid more aggressively. So also on the strategic finance side, when you go borrow, the treasurers have a role to play because they can commit, if they know the market well, they can commit to getting better rates, better borrowing rates. So I think it's a move to treasurers getting some sort of a target rates and working towards it. So more central role in the day-to-day operations of the company compared to what is being handled today. Secondly, I think Maulik just mentioned that a lot of people do not get into FX hedging because it can cause P&L MTM volatility. So IFRS 9 with its hedge accounting is basically meant to address this issue. So managing P&L volatility is an important aspect of communication with stakeholders. See, shareholders expect reasonable stability. Volatile P&L causes a lot of discomfort to everyone. So the treasurers have a role to play there. Also even the lenders. So if your P&L is volatile, then your credit rating is likely to come down. So even for people who are not listed, companies that are not listed plays a role. And in disclosures, in what is your market exposure kind of disclosure, I think treasury is a role. So two kinds of important roles, one in competitiveness, the other in stakeholder communication. I think they will play a more central role. And tech will have a big role to play in getting the treasurers there. Currently, most of the tech is Excel. A lot of people here. So I don't know if there are many CFOs there. I'm just asking, how many of you currently use only Excel in your treasuries? Just to show of hands. Not many. How many of you have a proper TMS? Not many. I think by default, the rest of them are also using Excel somewhat. So it is likely to transition. So I think that is what will be the difference between now and maybe 5 years later. That is how it will probably go.
Thank you. I mean, a couple of themes came up, between both of you, and I think that struck. One was, Maulik, you mentioned about micro-hedging. Kathir, what you also mentioned was about, the treasurer playing such an important role in every deal. Now, that can be a lot of information. That can, overload the treasurer with a lot of things. If you want to go there and do micro-hedging for every transaction, how do you think they'll be managing that? What would be your advice? So let me start with you, Maulik. What would be your advice and how do you manage that?
I think we are in the midst of huge revolution, if I may say so, in the treasury space. There are technology revolutions happening all around, and the treasury is not the one which is going to be escape from there. Micro hedging, when I talked about, I think we are moving towards a time when exposures gets identified, it gets handled at the system level itself. So imagine you have treasury management solutions, you have a corporate and a bank connectivity. Now we today already have API feeds being available through CCL platform, through Refinitiv, where corporates can actually hit the live price. Now imagine the entire system is integrated. Today one of the roles that the treasurer has is to actually get the most efficient price from the bank or from the counterparty, which is not going to be there anymore, because here we are talking about a STP where all that you need is negotiate the rate with your counterparty, and the way it will happen is that there are live feeds, you have a TMS, a treasury management software, that is connected online with the APIs and with the counterparty. What really requires, and that's where the role of a treasurer is very relevant, is actually identifying at what stage you want to hedge. So imagine in a transaction cycle, a corporate has decided that the moment there is a purchase order or a sales order is when I want to actually hedge, and my policy says, say 80% should be hedged. The moment I have PO in my system, and it could be an SAP or any other ERP, my TMS is linked, it will go to TMS, and from TMS it may go even to the bankers as a counterparty, and it will complete the entire loop, including a loop that it will probably go back in your SAP and complete the hedge account. So we are not far off from that reality. Now, if that is what the reality in front of us, then what the role of a treasurer would be. And I think that is something which is very interesting, and that's what I personally believe, that the role that a treasurer would play will be that of real providing an intellectual capital. Like Kathir already mentioned, that he is going to play a role of involvement in each and every transactions. Imagine a treasurer is actually hands on with your business operations, wherein you are collectively deciding that which are all different financial risks that is impacting my EBITDA. Now today, as a treasurer or as a business, all that we are seeing it is that import and export transactions from in the context of FX risk management, and that is what is getting coming to the treasury for management. But there are a lot of direct and indirect risks. Even in my local buying and local selling, there are FX exchange rate related parity. Now that we are not managing at the moment. Now the treasurer role will be actually to keep looking at each and every line item, each and every data points. That's where the data becomes relevant, and connect it to my system. That can I really identify this exposure, and can I really have a hedging management solutions? And that's where the role of a treasury itself will become agile, and it will be more focused on the intellectual piece rather than maybe the operational part. So that's one shift that I see probably is what is going to be an interesting space for the treasurers to operate.
Thank you. Kathir, I mean, I'll just follow up before going into. I just want to. I'm still sticking to, and I think you mentioned this really great point about if the treasury is really affected, it can give that extra 1% rather than going and asking the borrowers for 1% and negotiating with them. A treasurer itself can guarantee that 1%. And you mentioned about treasurer being part of every deal. How do you see this evolving?
Yeah, so the question obviously is that the treasurer is going to be so central part of a lot of operations of the company, then how is he going to handle it?
Yeah.
So that brings you to the importance of policy, of defining policy and having it automated in a reasonable way. Otherwise, you cannot handle the kind of load that operations will throw at you. So policy comes in many ways. For example, Maulik just mentioned the policy could be hedge 80%. Okay. So why 80%? Can technology help you validate whether that 80% is right? Technology can certainly help you enforce that 80%. If the policy is 80%, tech can certainly help you enforce. But is that 80% the right number? Given the target that you may have, let's say I'll give you an example, the current rate, let's say current forward rate is 72 and your target is 73, and then the policy requires you to hedge 90-95%, let us say, then how is it possible for you to achieve that gap? So depending on how much you are expected to perform, so much of a level of play has to be given in terms of how much you can leave unhedged. And that also brings you to the question of what should then be the risk that you take. When you leave so much unhedged, you're obviously taking a risk. That brings you to stop loss, it brings you to risk capital, and all of these policies, like he said, has to be the intellectual capital that the treasury will bring in. But these are set in the system. Once you set it in the system, then the hedge can run.
Okay.
So I think a lot of automation, a lot of very granular policy definition will certainly help the treasurer handle the increased amount of load that will now come to him.
I mean, you brought up really relevant points. One is that the role of the treasurer itself is going to rapidly evolve, the intellectual capital. And I think, you also mentioned, Kathir, about how that intellectual capital can be captured and put into a system. I think that's a very unique way to look at your treasury management system. Not just look at it as a software system, but what you're doing is you're building intellectual capital, then you're capturing it into the software system, you're putting it out there into rules-based engine. I'm just trying to look a little bit forward also. Look, we have corporate treasurers in the room. I think managing FX volatility is, day in, day out, we keep hearing about it, keep up, I think earlier, Mr. Venkatasen said, I wake up in the morning, I'm looking at the news, Trump tweets and everything. FX volatility is just at the heart and key of every day, every minute. I'm thinking a little bit in the future. What trends do you see in the future? Maybe from a process perspective, maybe from a risk consulting perspective. Maulik, I'd like to get your views on how do you see the future? What does the future hold for them? How do you manage volatility?
I think volatility is going to be an integral part of the system because that's the reality. But the most important thing is how does one structure or constitute their internal risk management policy and process into the operations. In the sense that if I know that 5 or 6% is the volatility, do I then have enough risk capital? And accordingly, do I then keep 10%, 20%, 5% hedge ratio? Because then I need to do a value at risk assessment all the time. And it's not a static market, it's a dynamic market. So even the assumption that I have about 5 or 6% volatility needs to be validated. And I think from the past data that we have seen, market has a tendency to presume a higher level of volatility than actually what it is. So that's what the data shows. But having said this, your value at risk propositions at whatever confidence interval level that you want to plot at has to really capture that does the organization have the enough risk appetite. And even RBI regulation stipulates that 10% of your EBITDA is what probably one warning signal could be. And that could be something which policies should ideally benchmark to it. And if that is not there, then maybe stay 100% hedged. But having said this, I think the real challenge, and that's the another point, is there is no perfect hedge also because it's a dynamic world. And hedging, while it offers a solution to a problem which you identified as one, but at the end of the day, we are all living in a competitive edge. Sustaining competitiveness, that I may be 100% hedged, but my competitor is not, then still I am exposed to the risk because then I lose my competitiveness.
True.
So it's definitely, and that's really the role a treasurer would have to play to keep feeding those inputs ongoingly, and it's a dynamic environment. So I think that's an interesting time that probably we are living in.
So, just a question, just a follow-up question on that. Maulik mentioned about the whole dynamic hedging part, value at risk. From a technology perspective, what do you see is the future for technology? Are you seeing any new trends in technology? What technology can offer as a solution to the treasurer to manage this? Do you think there's a more, for example, do we need to do more VAR calculations in today? How do you think technology can help in that space?
Yeah, I think tech can certainly help in the current scheme of things. It can help you handle scale. It can help you improve your process currently. As of now, the hedging process itself in many organizations is not extremely well defined. And there is no way for them to iterate and improve the process as they go. I think even at that level, tech can make a big impact in many treasuries right away. The analytics side of treasury can help a lot in validating a policy. You can do sensitivity analysis, you can backtest your parameters that you've set and check whether they will still stand volatility, still stand stress. These are things that tech can very easily and very efficiently do. The frontier it would be to estimate volatility. So I don't know how far it will go there. I think currently we are still looking at operations, not looking at predicting the markets right away. I don't know how it will go. Maybe as we go, we'll have to look at whether we are really able to predict volatility.
Sure. So I think forward signals, prediction, I think that, on that note, I'll just summarize this session. And thanks again, Maulik and Kathir, for your time. I think we heard really great trends. I think the fact that micro-hedging, the fact that the role of the treasurer will evolve, that was very good input, and thank you for that. It's interesting to see, on my end, I'd like to say that for me, when I'm hearing all this, the fact that the role of the treasurer is so central that, you don't just look at it as a process. It's not about process, you do some processing on paperwork and your FX contracts and things like that, but it's really central. The fact that you mentioned about that the treasurer can really become maybe a profit center of some sorts, that was pretty, very remarkable from your side. So with that, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.